My name is Gianna Costello. I'm a senior inside sales account manager. I've been with ShareFile 3 years now, but been in the industry for 10. Funny enough, my dad has been a turnaround manager at a refinery for literally as long as I've been alive. So very familiar with the industry, or I guess more so him complaining about it, let's be honest. But excited to be here with you all today. I'm going to go ahead and throw it to Bruno to introduce himself here.
Yep. So that's me. Thanks, Gianna. Yep. Hi, ladies and gents. My name is Bruno Albert. I've been with ShareFile for 9.5 years here. Seen a lot of changes for sure, and done a couple of different things within the organization. I've spent some time on the virtualization and networking side of the house, um, but the overwhelming majority of my career has been working with ShareFile, and much of it with small and mid-sized businesses. I am one of our senior solutions engineers, which means both before and after purchasing ShareFile, my job is to make sure that we're clearing all your technical requirements. Everything's going to work the way it's supposed to work to meet your needs and your workflow, and make sure that in an ongoing capacity, you, your organization, and your team are comfortable with deploying ShareFile's set of features and tools in order to manage your users, manage your business, and make sure it's meeting your needs. Currently, and for the past few years, I've been working with our enterprise line size, so the really big global firms in the energy sector, construction, manufacturing, and so on and so forth. So that's my wheelhouse.
Awesome. Thanks, Bruno. I should mention that I also run the manufacturing and construction side of the house for the West Coast for ShareFile as well. Hence why you're hanging out with me today. So today's webinar, we're going to talk and show you a couple different things here. So really our goal is to show you how streamlining and securing your project management system can help you make and save money, as well as some simple ways to wrangle your communication into one central place. And then really some stuff on the cool side of the house, which is the workflow automation and templatization that actually improves your daily efficiency as well as gets projects delivered on time. Because let's be honest, that's what drives the money side of the house. Heading forward here to our next slide, ShareFile has a ton of history in the background, so I'll give you a little insight here. So we've been in the industry for 19 years. It was founded by Jesse Lipson. We actually have 7 million active users inside of ShareFile, which is a staggering statistic for me to even say out loud when I work with these clients on a daily basis. We also have 86,000 customers. Crazy. On the side of the house, you probably are a little confused who owns ShareFile right now. And rightfully so, because we're confused ourselves and we're here. There's been a ton of changes in the background in regards to ShareFile. So it started as ShareFile was just a small subdivision of Citrix. Then we completely separated as a new business entity. Then Cloud Software Group actually bought out Citrix and ShareFile together last year. And then just recently, in the past couple weeks, we're actually about to close this week, being bought out by a company called Progress is purchasing ShareFile alone. Citrix is staying with Cloud Software Group. Progress is one of the largest software companies in the world with literally 40 years of experience in the industry. And they are one of the industry leaders in AI. So we are super, super excited for the things coming down the pipeline and how we can collaborate together. And that's looking to close here next week. So we're excited about that. Awesome. So in the construction industry, there's been a ton of growth. Specific to 2024, it was expected to be a 5.6% increase in the industry. Obviously, it depends on what sector you're in, and those numbers kind of differ between the two. But with this growth, it brings more competition for jobs, and it makes the need to deeply understand every aspect of the construction project lifecycle more important than ever. So that's what our goal is to help with today. So in this industry, I talk to clients a ton on a daily basis. If you want to click forward for me, Bruno. I talk to clients on a daily basis in our industry in the construction field. There's a ton of challenges that they've told us. Cost overrun, delays, slow adaptation to emerging technologies, inadequate communication, whether that's internally or externally, labor shortage, poor planning and forecasting and budgeting, and just a lack of organization and haphazard document management. And lastly, problems with cash flow. Now, I'll be totally honest, I wish I could wave a magic wand and give you a solution for problems with cash flow, but I unfortunately do not have any special powers on that side of the house. But I do have some things that we're going to be able to help with today on some of these other aspects. If you want to go ahead and click forward, Bruno. How ShareFile can help. So on the cost mitigation side, ShareFile is very budget friendly. Honestly, it is one of the least expensive products in the market that gives you a ton of bang for your buck. It's also very organized in one central location. So a lot of clients tell me that they run into issues, and having documents split between something like Google Docs or a folder on a device, or maybe an on-prem solution, or maybe even simply just communicating via email makes it super, super difficult to track down information where it's stored in multiple sources. And then this even makes it more extremely difficult to collaborate on these documents and versioning. If you're working on documents together, how can you see what it is that you started with and how you got to your endpoint, right? So those are some of the things that we're going to help with today. And clear and concise communication on projects. We're going to show you something called project spaces today that's going to help with that process all inside of the product. So no more back and forth there. And saving time of repetitive tasks. If there's any task that you've got to do 10, 20, 50, sometimes 500 times in a year, we have templates in place that can actually save you a ton of time on the admin side of the house. And then just honestly, a consolidated tech stack. We have something called Right Signature Integration. It's a signature solution, and it's one less vendor, one less point of contact, less person bugging you regards to a renewal. Makes your life a little bit easier since your day-to-day is already so busy. I do want to talk about a customer example here in the construction industry. I can't say his name or the company name, but bear with me here. I'll give you as much info as I can. So they were on our small to medium business side. They had 200 employees at this construction firm. They're an active ShareFile customer. And honestly, this conversation just started talking about the renewal coming up with us. And you've probably heard, if you're a current customer, your account manager ask you, hey, do you have a signature solution in place? Reason why I always ask that question is just like car insurance, just like cell phone bills, the more things that you have on one bill, the less expensive they end up being. So kind of bundling things together, right? So I asked the client and he said, yeah, we do have a signature solution in place. It works fine. Honestly, it's probably not worth looking into unless there was a huge cost savings associated with that. And so I said, okay, well, I don't want to waste too much of your time. How much, tell me how much you pay for it and how many users, and I'll tell you if it's worth, exploring any more in depth or not. And that started to open a can of worms. He had the hardest time actually figuring out how many users were utilizing his signature service. He couldn't see who had even had access inside of his organization. Zero visibility. He reached out to his rep on that side of the house. They couldn't provide him the information. It literally took us weeks, 3 weeks of consistently reaching out to try and figure out this information. Well, we dug into it a little deeper and also found out that his clients were actually his employees were signing documents for clients on what's supposed to be a legally binding signature. His signature solution was also not legally binding. So staggering stat, 43% year-over-year increase for construction litigation costs last year. That's a staggering stat. And if these documents that he was sending aren't even legally binding, let's be honest, insurance companies look for any reason not to pay out a claim. Let's make sure not to give them any reason whatsoever. So what started out as, just, hey, maybe a cost savings perspective, we were able to consolidate his tech stack, one less product. It was directly integrated, so it saved a lot of back and forth time of pulling those documents out of one place and uploading them to somewhere else. And then he had total audit tracking and visibility. Who sent what? When was it action? Who actually has the visibility into these things? And we still ended up saving him money, $5,000 annually on a small signature side of the house and a larger access to the ShareFile side. So it was a really good example of what it is that your account managers can do for you and why we ask those questions and bug you guys once a year at the time of renewal to make sure that you're in the right spot for your next renewal with us as well. Bruno's actually going to show us some of the cool things that have happened recently inside of ShareFile that are going to go really more in depth for you guys today. So I'm going to throw it on over to Bruno.
All right. Thanks, Gianna. So we'll do a quick scan through and just reacquaint you with the generalities of ShareFile, what it is, what it does, just a quick fly through before we drill down into some of the newer stuff that we're offering more recently. So what we've got here is our sample corporation, Acme, a company making everything. That's what I like to joke that it stands for. And so we've got our own custom branding up at the top. We can see in the URL acmecorporation.sharefile.com. We log in, we've got our dashboard that shows us all the recent files that we've had any kind of interaction with, and quick links to share or request files. I want to point out, if you're not already familiar with this, ShareFile is at its core a really efficient way to manage access to different files and bits of data, as well as transfer large files. So up to 100 gigabytes per file. If you have big CAD drawings, blueprints, etc., videos. I know we have a number of customers that are using ShareFile as a repository for drone videos of job sites or other types of facilities that they may be working on just because of how it handles large files. It's a heavy lifter. It can do a lot of that kind of stuff, in addition to handling the more nuanced workflows, including e-signatures and crossing things off of a list for completion. So again, just walking through some of the generalities, right? When we click into shared folders, I've got essentially my company drive. Now I've got a personal folder section too, so I can use this more as my kind of my own My Documents folder that lives in the cloud. I can still share things out from either section, right? This is built from the ground up for governance, so everything's owned by the company. If you purchase this for your organization, give your employees access to this, there's not going to be anything that you don't own as the company, but you are able to just keep it tidy by curating shared folders and then kind of letting users do their own thing in personal folders. When we click into, for example, our Acme construction folder, right, we're able to go pretty deep in here. I'll use a mock project we've got going on here. We've got some subfolders for bids, COIs, change orders, signed contracts, correspondence, daily job site reports, all that good stuff. And when we click into the People tab, we can easily see who, both inside and outside the organization, has what level of access into this folder. So for instance, our internal IT team has access to everything. We can delete stuff from here, admin the folder, which means add and remove other users, and of course, view, download, and upload files. Now, we've got some folks that are external, and we can simply remove their ability to download files and leave them as view only to see what's in this folder, but not actually grab their own copy. We can leave them as upload only if I want to give someone access to give me files, but not pull a copy of what's in here. And we can turn on alerts for those type of notifications too. So for instance, if I want my colleague Matt here to be notified every time a new file hits this folder, I turn on upload alerts. All I've got to do is put stuff in there. Matt's going to get an email about it. It saves me time and communication. I'd click save, and there I go. One of the ways that ShareFile really stands out from the competition is giving you this kind of control for external parties, right? So you can use this with users that are part of your organization, have a company login, members of your local Active Directory, etc. But all it takes to add someone to one of these folders is a name and an email address. So if you want to add your client, a vendor, a subcontractor, whoever it is, you simply click Add People to Folder, create a new user, and fill in their info. It's as simple as that. You specify what they can do, done. So with that being said, again, did want to provide a general fly through. Please feel free at any point throughout the rest of the demo, the rest of this meeting, to leverage the Q&A section at the bottom of your Zoom window if you see a point you'd like us to come back to. It looks like we got a couple more folks in, so welcome. And a small group today, so definitely don't hesitate to ask questions. I know Gianna and myself are used to dealing with this one-on-one with our customers. So definitely prefer the conversational approach when possible. So that being said, the newest aspect of ShareFile in the past year or so, there are some minor changes to more admin focused things, but let's talk about what you would use in the line of business day to day, particularly in the construction industry. We're going to look at the projects section here. Now, this is an area that includes a catalog of pre-built, pre-composed project templates to help you keep track of files and folders that are both outgoing, coming in, having a deadline, and being assigned to different people to give you a dashboard view of all of the above, and for you to be able to iterate it for different purposes and also for different clients. So just looking at my main dashboard of all of my different projects here, I've got one for the Home Alone house, one for the Haunted Mansion, one for client onboarding, one for bidding, and one for subcontractor onboarding for the same project here, for the same construction site. So for the more in-depth video here, I'm going to kick it over to our guest speaker, my colleague, Mr. Scott Shelton, who's going to walk us through the nuance of using the projects feature.
I wanted to provide a quick demonstration of how ShareFile can take a common practice within our vertical and make it more efficient. Within the construction industry, the bid management process is incredibly common. Construction firms take bids from other companies on everything from roof work to plumbing to the electrical work inside of the project at hand. Now, ShareFile can help streamline that process with our new bid management project template. So let's take a look at how this could work. Up in the top right-hand corner, you'll see our ShareFile catalog. When we click into that, this is going to provide us with the templates that we have available that ShareFile has built for different workflows and solutions that we have available. So this far right option will be templates, and under our construction option, we will see client onboarding, subcontractor bid management, as well as contractor onboarding. So this bidding management is the one that we're going to focus primarily on here. So I've already installed that. There will be an install option here. If you click install, it'll put that into your template library. And if we go back into our project section, you'll see that I've got several of them installed, but the bid management process is what we're going to look at first. Within this project, I've now had the ability to customize the users who have been assigned to it and customize their permissions as well. So we can view the permissions that this user has. We go along with our granular permissions, so they're not going to be able to see everything inside of the project. They're an external user. We don't want them to see everything inside of it. And so there's certain things that they can see, there's certain things that they can't. And I can customize that down to every single detail within the project. The key piece here is our information requests. I can assign this out, and this is where the bid actually takes place. So the contractor will be able to put in their contact information, their address, and then we get into the bid amount, the detailed cost breakdown for labor, materials, overheads, etc., the project timeline, and then any kind of references, relevant experience, and additional comments that they have for this. And then they can submit that to me, who's taking multiple bids for multiple people. If I need to create another one, let's say I'm sending this bid out to a lot of different people, that's fine. I've saved this as a template, so I can create a information request from a template, and I've already got one here set up. So I can create this information request, and it's going to take the exact same template, and it's going to create it so that I can assign it to an additional user, somebody else who's external, who's going to come in and is going to fill out that same form that I can then keep track of for all of the different breakdowns that they have provided. I've got some document requests here at the top. Let's say I receive a bid that I like and I want to get more information. So now we can look at it for electrical work. I can go in and assign out a document request for this electrician. I need the bid proposal pricing details. I would like the plans, project specific, that they're looking at, so I can go through and make sure it's exactly what I'm looking for. If I've got multiple people coming through this, then I've got a subcontractor's data table. So I can add multiple in a row, and I can keep track of everyone who I've sent this information out to, what their specialty is. If we open this up here, so I can change the specialty: construction, plumbing, roofing, go through a whole lot of different ones, their standard information.
Just want to pause real briefly before we wrap this up, this portion. We had a question in the Q&A regarding specifically this functionality. How do we keep track of who has responded with documents, in this case, bids? Also bear in mind, everything that you see is reconfigurable. We're offering this up as a template to suit a specific purpose. All of this can be changed, tweaked. You can build your own. So just know that this is very much an open platform. We are offering this up as something to get you going that's already built for a particular purpose, but it can do whatever it is you want.
And then their status down here at the bottom. If I approve what everything's going through, maybe they're just going to be a finalist. Maybe I can filter based off of that going forward. And then finally, I've got the approved option that this is who I want to move forward with. I can close out the request, notify the others who are not approved, and then move forward with maybe the next thing that needs to happen. This is bid management for the electrical. Now I need to create one for the plumbing. Then I can create one for the roof work. So we can set up these multiple projects, and we're able to kind of create all of this within a share file space, so we don't have to pull in different resources. Everything can live, everything can be stored, all the files are stored securely, and you keep track of all the different aspects for these projects right here inside a share file.
All right, so thank you for walking us through that, Scott. Much appreciated. Yeah, so again, just to kind of call out what it looks like in practice, we've got a lot of these already populated out, multiple instances, right? And we're able to see some of our active document requests and so on and so forth. So yeah, this actually leads into our next portion as well. So our anonymous attendee asks, can I notify subcontractors who were either awarded a job or all those who were not selected within this? It's something we have to do via email, text, and phone today. So that would help. So a couple of things. There are certain things that you can do to run down a list and distribute some form of communication or document, etc. And I also want to mention, this is something we were going to tease for a future webinar if need be, but we do have an even more in-depth, more complex, and you might even say higher horsepower version of some of these functionalities available in a separate tool called Podio, which does a fantastic job of orchestrating workflows and project management. It's much more like an open database with automation, whereas ShareFile is centered around files. It is a bit trimmed down, so there's not quite as much to get lost in. Although if this is your first time seeing any of this, it probably seems like a lot. We certainly understand. But if you have questions about this, more advanced workflows, how to use this, can it do X, Y, and Z? What would that look like? We want to encourage you to reach out to ShareFile, to us in response to the webinar, to sharefile@sharefile.com, even sharefile.com/support. If you already have an account with us, that's where you go for all things support and consultation related. But let us know. Let's get someone to talk with you so we can sort through it. But that being said, again, our Q&A question leads into one of the workflows that we wanted to go over within the next 10 minutes before we close out the webinar. And this is going to kind of tie together with electronic signatures as well. Right, so of course, I can, one way I can do it is I could create a folder with a letter in it that says acceptance and one that says thanks, try again next time, and add the respective parties to that folder so they get notified that they've gotten a file shared with them. They all see the same thing. It's the so sorry letter. That's one option. Another option would be, particularly if you're going to continue doing work with someone and you want them to sign some onboarding documentation. Now I've got this set up as a release of liability, but This can literally be anything, right? So we have an e-signature tool built into the platform and a dashboard to track these actual legally binding signature requests. When we look at our list of clients, we can actually see all of our external non-company users in here. Select someone. And so we've got, let's just look at the user profile here too. I'm going to use our office address, our old office address. For Gianna. So what we'll see is actually using that, we can click Send Client Agreement, have several saved as templates here. So I've got a client change order, I've got an onboarding doc, and I've got a release of liability form that I've already signed or countersigned. Let's take a look at it. So this template was built to scrape the name and address of the individual that I'm sending it to based on what I've got in my records. I've already signed it. In this case, we'd send this off to Gianna. It's going to ask for her signature and date on the document. We can even have this saved to one of our projects, as you just saw, very malleable. We could have this saved to, say, Starcourt Mall. We can change the name of it if we want, right? But it's as simple as that, right? So we've gotten it out the door, got it templatized, so it's really easy to just repeat over and over again. Kicked it out the door, and it's going to automatically be filed back against a given project. And kind of working a little bit deeper into the e-signature tool, this is something that we can grab files off of our desktop or anywhere within our ShareFile account. I'll just do a really quick generic example with our dummy change order for Acme Corp here. Now, we can add multiple signers. We can even specify the order in which they sign. So if we're doing a job where we need a couple of homeowners or developers, whomever, multiple parties to sign, great, we can set several of them up. We can countersign on the way out the door. We can fill in information as needed. Or we can just kind of shotgun this out to everybody and see who gets it in first. But everyone will get a completed copy once it's signed and executed. When we've got that set up, we can also add additional docs and make a package here. So let's click into the next step, right? So in this case, I'm using a blank base document. If you've got some other management platform already in progress, you're probably generating some version of this document that's pre-filled. That's fine. You can use a new PDF with maybe the client name, job name, some of that information, change order number filled in advance. That's fine. You can swap out the base document and still use a template on top. It's basically just going to carry over where the signatures, dates, whatever it is you need someone to fill in, where the boxes go, who has to do what, and it really doesn't matter what's on the base document. So you can swap that out as needed. When we're setting this up manually, just dragging over what you need. If you've got multiple people, you can choose from whom. It'll be color coded on the document. You don't have to worry about people signing over one another. But it's pretty straightforward. Choosing the date, initials, text, drop-down lists, all of the above. You can even request attachments here. And then, of course, before we finally kick this thing out the door, we set an expiration date. One of the other nice things is this is automatically going to follow up for you. So this will send the reminders, send the nag messages so that you don't have to feel like you're bugging your clientele, your subcontractors, or whomever else, right? Whatever it is that you need. Likewise, when we click back to projects, those reminders will send out automatically as well. So if you've requested documents from a given individual and the deadline is coming due, once that's actually shared out, which in this case it's just an example, so we don't have any parties in there. That's all right. Let's go ahead and do that. Choose what they can do, share it out. Got it. We've got a deadline. We can come in and close the request. We can kick out reminders, whatever we need to do. So that being said, so we took a look at projects, some of the nuances there. We took a look at e-signature. We're kind of approaching the end of our webinar here, and I do see a few Q&As in the chat. So let's run through these. So, okay, we talked about notification. We have estimating software that manages all RFQs, some contractor quotes, contacts, and email addresses. Okay, not really a question, just got it. Okay, using ShareFile to send out links to plans and specs, usually large files. Yep, very typical, very typical. As we roll forward, we've put a lot of effort into expanding our integrations. So one thing that I would look at is if you have one of those platforms that manages your subquotes, contacts, email addresses, and RFQs, we have taken some of the initial steps to basically connect to those type of platforms and pull in the names and email addresses. And if you are distributing things, it makes it easier to add those individuals to a folder. I don't know if you've ever considered using ShareFile to actually collect information, but the checklist approach can be very helpful there. Going back to the next one here, when we receive documents, the docs go to internal systems for review and selection. We use SharePoint folders for that. Is there an integration to SharePoint, or will we need to change up our process if this is used? And what do the reminders for file requests look like? There are automated and manual reminders for signatures as well as document requests. Those are emails that go out, so your external users would receive emails about them. As far as SharePoint, so this may be a little bit more of a complex answer, and SharePoint has on-premises solutions, online solutions. In the Microsoft world, you've got OneDrive for Business, SharePoint Online, 4 different products in the stack. We do all of those functionalities just within ShareFile, and then what's more, we actually connect to all 4 of those platforms as well, which I do not have any of those configured on our demo account. So to not go too in depth, I know we have at times a limited amount of customers using SharePoint, and those generally SharePoint's pretty well internal, right? We don't see a lot of external users being added to Active Directory just so they can get into SharePoint. That is one of the sticking points and why a lot of folks end up using ShareFile because of those types of difficulties. I would say there's not a very direct way to pass information from anywhere directly into SharePoint from external users. So you may want to consider changing up the process. However, we do have a connection that can be made through a number of means to where you'd essentially have SharePoint showing up the same way I've got Google Drive here. So obviously that's not the ShareFile product, but it is a connection that can be made so that I can click through and actually browse my company's Google Drive right here in ShareFile. It also makes it easier for me to move files between the two. So if I'm receiving them here and I want to copy them here, I can do that all from one screen. That's going to be the simplest answer there. And looks like we're right on schedule for wrapping up in the next couple minutes. Do we have any final questions?
Bruno, I sent you two others that I found, and those are what type of tracking does ShareFile have to see what users have done recently?
Oh boy. Okay. This is right up my alley. I love security and auditing and all that really nitty-gritty stuff. So the simple answer is if we just want to peek into a folder, we have an activity log. And we can see all of the traffic on this folder within a given time frame, right? So here's the past week, all these types of activity. So what file, what happened, and who did it, and when. Now, if we want to look at things more account-wide, or in the age of cybersecurity being as important as it is, if we want to look at things on an account level or get investigative into a given user, we have ShareFile's reporting tool under settings, admin settings, company account info, and reporting. I would encourage you to look up ShareFile's events and webinars page, because going in depth on something like this is something that we do fairly frequently with our live webinars, where we are not industry specific necessarily, but we are more feature set specific and going in depth on admin capabilities and admin tools that you may need. This is one that I've actually hosted recently, admin toolkit covering reporting and all of these other really important management and user maintenance tasks. But something we can do is actually create a report. We've got a number of different kinds of reports, whether we want to get an index of who has access into which folders, or what they're storing in their account, or just see what they're doing. We can run a usage report for that. And this is essentially the same metrics that we looked at on the last screen in the activity report or activity log on a folder, but we can make this specific to a given user or even the entire account. And we can run up to 90 days at a time. If we just want to see logins, we can uncheck everything except login, so on and so forth. We can also schedule these to be recurring reports and have them dropped in a specific folder. Maybe we share it out with our IT or management team every week or every month, right? So that's something that we can do. Good question. And then the next question in there was, can my teams access ShareFile via iPad or their iPhones or phones? Yes, absolutely. I do it all the time. ShareFile for a very long time has had mobile apps. Your clients can as well, not just your actual team. So, yep, they can go to the ShareFile website, or if need be, download the mobile apps, which gives you greater control over locking your company data when it's on someone's device. Gives you some control over what they can do with it. You're able to actually turn off the ability for them to take a file and open it in like the Pages app on an iPhone or iPad. If you want to make sure it stays in ShareFile, you can do that. So if you're doing construction and you've got some of those government regulations, maybe you're working with nuclear plants or any of that kind of stuff. I heard we've got some missile silos being reworked, and there's going to be a lot of construction in that sector as well as the energy sector in the coming years. Some of this may be highly regulated information. You can make sure that whatever's being shared out stays inside a share file, and if someone has a lost phone or you stop doing business with them, you actually will wipe your little section of their phone so you know company data is not being leaked. But yep, thank you very much for your engagement and questions. Thanks for passing them to me.
I
Oh,
was going to
Gianna's
add
got a hand
something
up.
there, Bruno. Sorry to interrupt you.
That's all
You
right,
can
I'm done.
also sign the signatures on mobile devices as well. So it makes it really, really easy when you're on site, whether it's contractors or with clients directly as well. So can do either or, which is pretty cool. Back to you, Bruno.
Oh, yeah, I think that's about it for today. It looks like the chat's calmed down a little bit. Whew,
Good.
crazy in there. And
Love
we
it.
want to thank you all for coming.